When the directions say to factor your trinomial, what the factor means is to unmultiply. Just like when I factor the number 6, it's 2 times 3. So I'm looking for two items that I can multiply together to give me my final product. In this case, we have to keep in mind that we're starting with ax squared plus bx plus c. These are our box problems that we've been working on. So if I were to make a giant X, I'm going to take whatever I have as C and put it on top. Whatever I have with B, and for both instances I have to include the sign in front, put it on the bottom. In this class, we're only going to be dealing with trinomials where a is 1. If a is not 1, then you have to first look to take out a greatest common factor and get a to be equal to 1. Otherwise, we're only going to deal with a equal to 1. So, in the first problem, c is negative 6, b is negative 5, and a is 1. So, in my box problem, I would put negative 6 on top, negative 5 on the bottom. It's my job to fill in the sides. On those sides, I'm looking for two numbers that are going to, at the same time, multiply to the number on top and add to the number on the bottom. If I have a hard time thinking of what that might be, I go off to the side and I just start writing the factors of the number from the top. 1 and 6, that's a factor pair. 2 and 3, that's a factor pair. Then I take into account that it has to be negative, which means one of these would have to be negative, and add to negative 5. If only one of these is negative, it doesn't work to add to negative 5. However, if the 6 is negative, 1 plus negative 6 is negative 5. So I have a positive 1 and a negative 6. The last step is to write this as your factors. It is extremely important. You always take your x squared, whatever your x is, sometimes it might be t or b or v, that gets written first in your binomials. Second, you take these numbers that you put in, a positive 1 and a negative 6, and bring them down. Add 1 because it was positive, subtract 6 because it was negative. There's your solution. That's your factored form of x squared minus 5x minus 6. To check if we did it right, we could always distribute. When I distribute x times x, I get x squared. When I distribute x times negative 6, I get negative 6x. I distribute 1 times x, I get plus 1x. And I distribute 1 times negative 6, I get negative 6. When I combine these as like terms, I get right back to where I started. That makes the quantity x plus 1 times the quantity x minus 1 my solution, or my factored form. I'm going to do two more with you, and I'm going to go through them relatively quickly. Don't forget that you can always hit pause to check your work, or to go back and rewind it. I create my x. This is c. It goes in the top. Negative 12 is b. It goes on the bottom. So I need factors that are going to multiply to a 35 and add to a negative 12. Again, I might have to go off to the side here and write my factor pairs. 1 times 35. 2 doesn't work. 3 doesn't work. 4 doesn't work. 5 works. It's 5 times 7. 6 doesn't work. 7, and I already have 7 in my list, so I can stop. Now, I need this to be a positive 35, but this to be a negative. If that's the case, then both of these terms have to be negative, because a negative plus a negative is going to be negative, and a negative times a negative is going to be positive. That shows this doesn't work. So I have a negative 5 and a negative 7. That makes this statement true, and I can go and write my factors. X minus 5 and x minus 7 are my factors. Again, go ahead and hit pause or hit rewind if you'd like to see that one solved again. I'm going to move on to the last problem. I'm doing three different problems here. One where I have subtraction and subtraction, one subtraction and addition. This one is addition then subtraction, which means my C is a negative, but my B is positive. Okay, so I'm going to put my negative 28 off to the side and write my factor pairs. 1 and 28, 2 and 14, 3 doesn't work, 4 and 7, 5 doesn't work, 6 doesn't work, 7 works, but I already have it, so I'm done. Now, if I have to multiply to a negative number, only one number in each factor pair would be negative. I have to find the correct pair that when one of them is negative, add up to a positive 3. Okay. I see that these aren't 3 apart, so it can't be this. Those aren't 3 apart, so it can't be this. These are 3 apart. Now, if I want my solution to be positive, then I need the smaller number to be negative. Now, a negative 4 times a positive 7 is negative 28, and a negative 4 and a positive 7 is positive 3. There's my solution, and I can write my factors. X minus 4 and x plus 7.